Hello and welcome to the Big 12 Mafia Holy Rivals show. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown. With me is one of my key contributors and partners, Immaculate View. How you doing, Immaculate?
Good. How are we doing today?
Lots of stuff going on the last couple
I
days.
know.
We got some stuff to talk about. Plus, we have our horrible picks that we have to review. So it's going to be a good show. We have Moen Sports is going to be joining us. He's got some technical difficulties that he's working on right this second. So before we jump into the show, we might as well just recognize some people that are here early. Glenn Lumens, first one in the house. Good to see you, Glenn. He says, now that's a wild weekend. More to come. Be humble. Be hungry. Go Cougs. Yes, I agree with that. And then BR's in the house, and he says, hey, all go Pokes. What a game on Saturday night, BR. Your season is redeemed. It looks like you guys might be able to turn something around.
Oklahoma State might be the dying last hope for everyone else to beat one of those top teams.
It's quite possible. All right. We're still getting every time I mute him. Hey, Mo, I'm still getting reverb from you.
All right, hold on.
Okay. I'm going to mute him again. Mr. Monkey says he's third. That's good to know. Appreciate you being here, Monkey. Thank you. P.S. Doss here. He says hola. Devil Frog says howdy. He and a few others saw me over on Clint Foster's show. That was pretty cool. And it was nice to be on that show. I appreciate it. So was Pickles. Pickles says hola. Pickles and BR and Glenn are all part of my paid members group. We'll talk about that in a minute. Cougar Tracks is in the house. Adam Ontiveros. Cougar Tracks is also a paid member. Adam Ontiveros, sorry. And then Mike Smith, who's a newly minted member from last week, says, let's go. So I think what we'll do, since Moen's having technical difficulties, let me unmute you again. It's not letting me unmute Moen because he's got to mute it himself. I think we're going to just wait on him. And then Rock Chalk is here. Moen, are you there? That's better. Can you talk? Can you hear us? No, because we're not getting reverb, if that matters.
I think it's because he's got it muted from his side, so it's not coming back through.
Yeah, I don't know. Crazy ACC news. Isn't indeed. That is true. All right. Well, we'll just jump in. We'll get to the picks a little bit later, and we can start off with exactly that, the crazy ACC news. Early this afternoon, or maybe it was late morning Eastern time, Jim Williams put out a tweet, and I've got his tweet right here. I want to share it with everybody because it's going to affect a lot of people potentially. Let's see, which one are we at? This one, and we want to go to Jim Williams' tweet. Jim Williams sends out this tweet, and it says, look for the ACC to look into becoming the Ivy League of college sports. Where have we heard that before? If you've been watching our show, we've talked about that a little bit, but not in the same context, and we'll get to that in a second. And he lists Boston College, Cal, Duke, Georgia Tech, Miami, North Carolina State, Pitt, Stanford, Syracuse, South Florida, Syracuse, SMU, UConn, Virginia, and then Notre Dame. And he's got an asterisk next to Notre Dame because Notre Dame would be a full-time voting member, but a part-time member.
Also, he lists Syracuse twice. One of those is supposed to be Tulane.
Oh, okay. All right. One of those is supposed to be Tulane. And then at the bottom, he says this version, best case of the ACC, would be able to survive as a power conference. And because of the amount of money they would have access to and ability to marshal, NIL as a group is very impressive. They would be a very powerful academic conference with access to research money. Okay. So that came out and it created quite the firestorm. It created a firestorm on Twitter, created a firestorm within our group because we've talked about some of these things and we're like, well, this is a little different than what we've really considered in the past. And so just really quick, I wanted to hear from both Moen and Immaculate what you guys thought about the tweet, and then any other information that you might have found out throughout the day that would relate that we want to recount as a team.
Well, my initial thoughts on it was, wow, that's really strong. When Jim comes out and says something is a lock, and I think the delivery truck is just pulling in.
We can hear you now, Moen. We're getting a lot of background noise. Can
Waiting
you hear
for
us?
the beep. I don't think he can.
I don't think so. He muted himself again.
But,
all right, go ahead.
Yeah. So his language initially is what kind of struck me. He's a guy who's been around quite a while, won a lot of awards. He's not just going to come out and throw out some language like that without obviously feeling very strongly about it, but also doing some work on it. So we kind of have to look at this and go, okay, I still kind of stick to some of my own thoughts on the ACC, and I find this very interesting. And I'm definitely willing to look at this and say, okay, if this was the case and this is how it goes, how does that maybe then help us shape the whole picture? But I do think that there are some things on here that I would point to and say, yeah, I don't think that goes in that direction, but we'll see.
And let's not forget about the schools we're not mentioning, and that would be the big three. That would be Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina, who we've talked about all along going to other conferences, whether the SEC or the Big Ten. So we talked about that. The second part of this that is kind of caught us off guard that we wanted to talk about. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Leave us a comment or question. Give us a thumbs up. We love that you're here and want you to be part of the family. If you want to get your comment out for sure, you can make it a super chat. Otherwise, leave a regular comment. We might make it to it. Or you could join, and I defer to paid members' comments before I take regular ones. Those three being gone and Syracuse being listed twice, meaning Tulane would be in this existing list, would mean that there would be additionally South Florida would be added. SMU's already been added. UConn would be a new add. So you'd be adding 3 new teams to what we would call the power conferences. Does that stand out to you at all? Does the number of new schools now sort of change the dynamic and how this league will be perceived? Will they be able to keep all these teams together?
Well, I mean, if you look at that, there's the 3 obvious that are gone, but also Virginia Tech is gone. Louisville is gone. So it's actually losing 5 according to him. So, that's generally speaking 5 from your top end value. To just replace that, I would have to say that this conference would probably take some kind of a hit in payment. And the reason why I say that is because of what's he say, Notre Dame, that it's partial?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. If they were to come in fully, I don't think it matters a whole lot who they lose. I think that they're going to largely probably stay at what they are just because ESPN would probably offer that to get them to join fully.
Right. Well, and I think something we need to consider, and by the way, this is an announcement by way of announcement. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to have Jim Williams in the studio.
Surprise.
So we're going to talk about this tomorrow. So we're finishing out today. That sounds much better, Moen. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I had to hard reset my computer. I don't know.
Yeah, I had to do that last week myself. Okay. So we're going to have Jim Williams here tomorrow. So everybody, please tell your friends, neighbors, cousins, aunts, I don't care who it is. We want a lot of people watching that show because Jim is going to fill in all the details of not only this tweet, but some follow-up tweets that he's put out. Obviously, he's not going to reveal his sources or anything like that. But what everybody needs to realize is Jim's won 7 Emmys. Jim is a graduate of the University of South Florida, so he has all kinds of contacts in Florida, and then he knows the ACC because of his experience with ESPN. So if Jim is putting a tweet out like this that's declarative, everybody needs to be paying attention. So, okay, Moen,
connections, that's for sure.
We did not get your opinion about this. When you saw this, what was your first thought, and kind of what did it sort of trend by the end of the day?
Well, if you had seen my show yesterday, I basically called this. I think that they are going to backfill with USF and Tulane. Those are the 2 slam dunks. I think Colorado State gets added in there. I think Rice gets added in there. And I think Oregon State and Washington State get added in there.
Really? Okay.
Yes. It becomes the All-Coast Conference, Pacific, Atlantic, and Gulf.
Okay. Interesting. So how many teams would that be? 20?
They would eventually get to 20, yes.
Okay. Because you lose 5, right?
Well, right now you'd lose 3.
Well, what about Virginia Tech and Louisville? They're not on this list.
I don't think they leave.
Oh, he just didn't mention them.
He didn't mention them. I don't think they leave until the way I put it in my ACC 2025 thing was, you're going to have this amount of payout that's going to increase. The additional media markets is going to boost the ACC network payout. And you're also going to have those exit fees that those three schools have paid.
Right.
So they're going to disperse that over several years. They're not going to give that to everybody in a chunk payment. They don't want people taking the money they made from those other teams leaving and using it to leave. So the ACC should be above the Big 12 for at least a few years.
Do I get to give you my full layout of where I think these schools will all go if this works out this way?
That's why we're here. Go ahead.
Florida, if this is true.
Oh, sorry. I switched. I didn't mean to.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. If this is true right here, not saying this is true, but if. So just doing a what if. I'm thinking Florida State and North Carolina are going Big Ten. They are going to round that out because this has Virginia in this. And if Virginia is solid with this, then that means they are not going to the SEC. And North Carolina and them are not a pair. And if that's happening, North Carolina is going Big Ten. If that happens, the reason why I don't like North Carolina State in this is I see them in VT then becoming the SEC's choices for North Carolina and Virginia. Kind of a crazy little, curveball to throw in here. If the SEC wanted to get Clemson as well at that point, just for whatever reason, because that's not in here and we don't really know where they're going. And honestly, I don't see them for either the SEC or the Big Ten in this situation, unless it's like, say, Vanderbilt was to come over and join this, and Clemson takes their spot in the SEC. But that's a twister right there. I don't know if Clemson should be on this list, or if maybe they would actually look at the Big 12, like a Louisville, Clemson. And I know chat really wants to say Pitt, but I'm just going to, if Pitt is on here, just saying that if Pitt stays, I think you're looking at Louisville and Clemson maybe to the Big 12, but that gets you to 18. So for folks who are against this Washington State, Oregon State situation, that gets you to 20. So it's interesting how this would change up some things.
So let's just circle back and sort of reset the table then. So yesterday Moen puts out basically an entire story saying this is basically what he's heard as well, on top of the additional schools that he's just listed. If you take that as rote, and that's just going to happen, then we're immediately rolling in Oregon State and Washington State by default, or are they being courted? Because Stanford and Cal came in for a 30%. SMU came in for nothing. So I'm kind of curious, where do Oregon State and Washington State fit in this?
It's tough. There's too many variables. It's, is Fox not wanting to put in any money and ESPN's willing to? Well, then, that's ACC probably where they would put them to, because I don't know if they'd want to pay the whole thing in the Big 12 and then Fox gets some usage of them without even having to pay. I just find I find that hard to believe that if this school really wants to go in this direction, I don't see Oregon State and Washington State really fitting in with that. But who knows? I mean, if that becomes the solution, then that's the solution.
Moen?
Yeah, every one of these schools that's going to join the ACC is taking a reduced share. They're not going to get the same amount of money that the original members have. They're not going to get the same amount of money that Notre Dame does. They're all going to be on that Calford deal where they're only going to get maybe $15 million. And that extra money is going to be, again, one of the things that helps keep schools still tied to the ACC. I understand that Louisville's a fit better for the Big 12. Absolutely. It's a Big 12 school in all but conference. But they could be making $20 million more a year by the time this is all said and done. So it's going to be real difficult for them to say, hey, let's pay $100 million and make $20 million a year less.
Where is that money? Where's that valuation coming
I
from?
think he's saying that ACC is keeping its same payout as it is now, maybe going up, and I don't know. I find that really hard.
That's a payout based on stealing money from the new schools.
Right. It's stealing money from the new schools.
All right, so it's not inherent in the conference itself is not worth 20 million more by itself.
No. But you've got all the money that's coming from the buyouts.
Okay. All right.
That leave, you're gonna have to pay. The ACC network is going to go up in value. You're adding
but
adding Dallas.
Understood.
Here's the thing, though. That's a 2036 deal. Are you saying that they're getting a reduced payout all the way till 2036 throughout the whole thing?
They're going to take a significant reduced payout to get into that conference.
They would have to make a new deal to get them to take a shorter. Like, would it be all the way through 2036?
No, it wouldn't be through 2036, but it'd be a good 5 to 7 year deal that they would have to take.
So we're talking a renegotiated deal with the ACC once these schools leave.
Yes.
Okay. That's logical.
Any of these ideas that we've talked about over the last several months are possible, right? Mm-hmm. We've never come out and said for certain that anything tomorrow was going to happen outside of Colorado, which we did say the night before that they would be moving to the Big 12. Other than that, we've never made a prediction. So
it's all speculation. Also,
yeah.
But it's still good to base it on kind of like, things that could actually happen.
I just want to be very clear with what we're trying to communicate here to people watching, though, or going to be watching in the future. We're not making any declarative statements. This is us taking the intelligence that we've gotten from people that we have contacts all over, right? I have different contacts than Immaculate. Immaculate has different contacts than Moen does. But what we do is we get together and then we talk about things, and then we put together these presentations so you guys can understand kind of what's out there. We try to summarize it for you, and then you can decide on your own. If you have any questions, why don't you put them in comments right now, and we'll try to answer those before we move to our picks, because I think this is a really big deal. Let me scroll back here and see if I can come up with some good comments here. Let's see. Mike Smith says, notice Louisville's not on that list. Was that just an absent-minded mistake by Jim, or is that for a reason?
I think Louisville's the most likely. If any team goes to the Big 12, Louisville is the most likely.
Okay. All right. Appreciate that.
If you get a good lineup of schools going to the Big 12 from this, including what they've done out west, I dare say I think the Big 12 could renegotiate a slightly higher payout.
I think they would. That's why I was asking about the 20 million, because I think if you have teams that have different options, one draw for this, and that's what Jim says, is Ivy League education, right? That's what they're stressing. You got Notre Dame and Stanford and Cal. Just take those three schools, and Tulane, and I mean the list goes long and long. So there's and Virginia, right? Yep. So there's a whole bunch of schools there that have very similar things. However, the cautionary tale is the Pac-12 had the exact same arguments, and they blew up spectacularly in this mess that now they're suing each other, right? So what might in the front seem like everybody's on the same page and hunky-dory, behind the scenes, we already know there's dissension because you had no votes to bring in those new schools. It's not a conference that's happy right now. I'll tell you that right now.
A little difference is in the Pac. With the Pac, there's enough room in the other conferences to take in, I say, the entire conference. Obviously, we still have two that are in question, but there's not that kind of room anymore right now. So even if the ACC, all these schools did want to go, that's not going to be available. So,
very fair.
And the reason why this kind of makes sense, people think, well, 2036. Well, remember, these are people. If you're there and you've got leadership at Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina that are so gung-ho on getting out that they're actually having a public vote that lines up against the rest of the conference, that's a big deal. That means there's a whole lot going on under the surface there that is just very tense. So I don't think that they want to sit there and deal with that headache till 2036. So some kind of deal, some type of total exit cost would be negotiated in a situation like this.
Let's get some more comments here. P.S. Doff says, has anybody put the words Ivy League and North Carolina State in the same paragraph? That's funny. I laughed when I originally read that. That was funny. Let's see here. Rock Chalk still is talking about schools going to the Big 12. That's been the talk for a long time, that those particular schools, Louisville, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, and Pitt, to the Big 12. But if they do something just with the ACC itself, that might put that plan in jeopardy.
Something to think about as well. If the Big 12 wants to go more than with just 2 out east and say that's all it becomes to them, why wouldn't a school like South Florida maybe want to join the Big 12 instead? I know academics and all that, but if you're actually trying to build your program, I don't know if this is actually the better one for them to be in versus being in the Big 12 and having your rival UCF in the same conference and playing against each other every year. I see why they would take this, but I wonder if the Big 12 came calling, if they wouldn't think, one or the other.
I think it's a fair question. Mullen, do you have any comment on that?
I would just say that I think UCF would probably do everything they could to block it. And I don't think the Big 12 wants to have more than one team in Florida.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Unless it's Miami. I bet you they take Miami.
Well, yeah, if it was Miami, they would take Miami. I think they're more interested in getting new TV markets. So
right. Very fair. Rock Chalk. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, I think that it's kind of being shown right now. Big 12 could really use a hard inroad into Florida for those recruits. It's just 1 year, kind of having a little bit of a down year, but with both Texas and Texas A&M going into the SEC, I think it'd be really good to really get a hard anchor into some of these big recruit states like Florida.
Rock Chalk says, what if courts say teams don't pay any exit fee money?
I mean,
the ACC implodes. I mean, if it's a free-for-all and all of them can leave, they're all going to leave.
Yeah.
Well, you got to have a place. You can't just leave to leave.
Right. You're going to have some that are left behind, but most of them are going to have a place.
I think there's going to be a cost. I think it's going to be a lot lower than what people think, though.
Jeff Woodworth says, stand with the Beavs and Cougs. I like that hashtag. That's good, Jeff. I'll try to, I'm not very good remembering things, but if you DM that to me, I'll try to put it in some of my tweets. Let's see here. Opie says, well, if this does happen, by the way, that $100 you gave Greg yesterday, Opie, I'm happy to take $100 from you too. I'd be happy. I'll put up a webcam over in one of these corners. You can watch me all day long if you want.
He's like, that's definitely not going to earn you $100.
I'm just letting you know. I saw your offer on Greg's show, so I'm offering for offering. He says, well, if this does happen, they have the right commission, Phillips, with this stance on education and edumacation. Sorry, I messed that up.
You're good. That's funny, though, what you said.
Let's see. I think, and then that gets us down here to Cougar Track says the 2-pack teams are better than some of those ACC teams.
Definitely.
At the end of the day, I still want those schools in the Big 12. I know there's a lot of people that, I've spoken to a lot of people in the Big 12 that just keep saying East, East, East only, but I just think they would be fantastic members of the conference. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm biased. I don't know what else to say about that. What do you think about this, Immaculate? Rock Chalk says UCF hates USF.
Sounds like a great reason to have them in the conference.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question.
Yeah, I mean, they probably do. But I don't think that UCF coming in has got the power to block that if the rest of the conference thinks it's a good idea.
Okay. All right, we'll move down the line. So everybody, tomorrow, just an announcement. If you're new to the channel, 49 people here watching live. At the beginning of the show, we've talked about realignment, the ACC. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, we will have Jim Williams will be on the show. He'll be on studio with us, and we'll ask him these questions. So tell everybody, tell your friends and neighbors, and watch that show tomorrow because we're going to ask some really detailed questions to Jim to see what generated this tweet, because obviously he's not going to make something up this declarative without information behind it. So stand by for that. That'll be tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. All right, let's move to Washington State and Oregon State and the Pac-12. Let's see if I have that lawsuit piece up. So John Wilner yesterday, we talked about this a little bit. He put together an article talking about Washington State and Oregon State and this lawsuit. I just wanted to get into that a little bit more. We're going to talk about this lawsuit again in detail as well tomorrow. After Jim Williams tomorrow night, we're going to be dealing with an actual lawyer that deals in mediation cases. And we did, Macula and I did a, what do you call them?
Twitter
Spaces last night on this. And it was really intriguing. And what we got out of it, and it really is called out in this article, is that basically all these is Washington is attacking Washington State in essence. So you have its own school within its own state attacking what they might consider their sister university. They're connected. They're both part of the Washington Education Network. So it's really intriguing that this wasn't done by the rest of the Pac-12 schools. It was done initially by Washington because they're the ones that are in Washington State to counterclaim. So what do you guys think about that? I thought that was remarkable. Being from Washington myself, I'm aghast that this is happening to my state and these two schools.
I haven't really had a chance to go through this all that much. I did find the whole motion to intervene part by Washington to be interesting, especially because all other 9 schools filed briefs of support. So basically, they're trying to intervene in this, saying that they're not being represented by the PAC.
Right.
Which
That's
is
exactly
kinda,
right.
I had a little back and forth with another lawyer on Twitter too, and he answered once but didn't come back, and it just kind of almost makes the case for WSU and OSU, in my opinion. I mean, they're saying that they don't have the best interests of the PAC at heart. They're saying that, trying to stop them from maybe having a vote that could do damage to the conference. And here's the conference is defending itself in court against those two. And all the rest of the schools are now saying that they're basically representing themselves. The PAC doesn't represent anybody. So if they're not represented by it, is that kind of like a claim of departure?
A little bit. I'm going to read these two comments. One was from the other 10 schools represented by Washington, a unified statement, and then the other one is by Washington State and Oregon State. And then Moen, I'll ask you to comment. This one first from Washington, University of Washington. As we share a memorable fall season of Pac-12 athletics, we recognize the complex challenges of the current situation. By the way, this is John Wilner on the Mercury News. I posted the link in the chat. You guys can go to the article and read it yourselves. I want to make sure we give credit. It says, our court filings show our schools are in full compliance with the Pac-12 bylaws, which prohibit a member from leaving the conference before August 2024. The August 2024 date, you wouldn't be leaving the conference. The conference would cease to exist after, at least would not have a media deal after that date. But allow schools to announce a withdrawal that will happen after that date. We are looking forward to engaging in further candid and constructive conversations that will allow us to reach a fair resolution and position our communities for future success. They're basically telling the world we didn't leave, we haven't left the Pac-12 yet, so we have rights to everything that's in the Pac-12. And it's not just who's left. So that's their sort of legal take. As a reply, Oregon State and Washington say the departing schools continue to undermine our efforts to secure the future of the Pac-12 conference. They are relying on flimsy arguments to try to escape accountability for their actions. It won't work. Their decisions directly damage the Pac-12 and are causing real harm to the conference, OSU, WSU, student athletes, and this is the kicker, and the people of Washington, or Oregon and Washington. And then this last paragraph says, we did not create or seek these circumstances, but OSU and WSU will continue to take whatever actions are necessary to protect our universities, ensure accountability and transparency, safeguard the Pac-12 conference. And what they mean there is all the assets, the monies from the tournaments and all that stuff, college football playoff money, and preserve our options moving forward. The future of the Pac-12 should be decided by the schools who stay, not those who go. So, Moen, what did you think? Did you get a chance to read this article, and what do you think about those two statements?
I did, and I got a chance to read Washington's thing to dismiss. And Washington makes a good point. I mean, they can't actually leave until August 2024. And this gets us back to this discussion. We've had this multiple times. There's a difference between intention and action. They're intending to leave the Pac 12 conference. They haven't acted and actually left yet. So Washington has a legitimate claim to say, hey, all the schools are still members of the Pac 12 conference until we actually leave in August of 2024. Because they're correct. The bylaws state you cannot leave the conference before August 2024. Ultimately, I think this gets resolved in mediation, but Washington has to put it out there. It's in their backyard. That's why Washington is doing this. It's in their backyard, in their district. That's why they're filing the claim. Any of the schools could make the same claim. But they're all just kind of lining up behind Washington and letting Washington do it. But Washington has to put this out here in case mediation doesn't work.
Well, and it had to be in Washington because that's where it was filed. The brief was filed in the Palouse in Washington State. So, Immaculate?
No, he's right. Washington is the one doing this because it's in Washington, and the rest are just filing briefs of support because they're not. I don't think that they're wrong for doing it, and I do agree with him that this is pretty much all the public-facing aspect of the negotiations going on in mediation. I don't think it comes out of there. I think they come to an agreement there because I think all parties need it and want it. It's just a matter of, while I think the 10 were probably budgeting to have some of that NCAA tourney money coming to them to help with their costs of moving and everything involved with that. I think Oregon State and Washington State are going to need some kind of aid from them to know where they're going. Otherwise, I don't think this is just about some money. I don't think they're holding this all up just for the money. And while they're there, I think they're going to be wanting some type of solution for where they're going. So if that's, the Four Corners working with the Big 12, or if that's Stanford and California working with the ACC, if that's all of these schools and reaching out to Fox and ESPN, it's kind of become the central hub for, okay, how do we solve this thing for Oregon State and Washington State so that we can all move forward? To me, I kind of wonder actually how much mediating on the PAC situation is going on in there versus how much actual conversation is going on in the bigger picture. Because when you look at the firm that they brought in, they do big things with lots of involved parties. So I don't think that this is as small as we think it is.
At the end of the day, I think what we're going to come down to is that you absolutely can't take anything for granted with realignment. If anybody thinks that this ACC news is not tied in some way, shape, or form to what's going on with Pac-12 and don't think there's a process that these things are going to go in order, you're nuts. There absolutely is. And we're just not sure which will go first. A lot of people think it's going to be Florida State, North Carolina, and Clemson leave. A lot of people think it'll be the Pac-12 resolution and settlement, but something has to give. And then once it does, I think there's going to be a lot of movement and there's going to be a lot of stuff happening around the same time.
Yeah. And if folks are looking at Jim as, taking his word on this and saying he's reputable, well, he did say in one of his tweets that all this is depending upon the Pac-2 being figured out. So
absolutely.
And if he's got some sources somewhere in the ACC and they're saying that, then I think you could probably take that to the bank.
Any last thoughts on that, Moen? We'll be talking about this more with Jim and the lawyer tomorrow.
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, they want to get this worked out where everybody's happy.
Right.
But everybody's got to take their legal stance. All the lawyers have to get these billable hours in. This is why this is happening. So, at the end of the day, it'll get worked out. Somebody will get paid off somehow.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll have resolution and we'll move on. Hopefully 2024 is only football. I think everybody's praying 2024 to just be about football, if possible. We have 60 people watching live. That's great. It's a great number on a Tuesday night when Not a lot of stuff is going on. Please subscribe. Turn on your notifications. I forgot to mention that earlier. Turn on your notifications on Twitter and on YouTube. Hit that little bell to make sure you get notified when we're going to be doing our shows. It's really important. It's right underneath the window you're watching. Just hit the bell, and every time we send one out, you'll find out about it. Do the same thing on Twitter. You can turn on notifications for what we're sending out. Everybody's addresses on Twitter are right there on underneath our faces. Make sure you do those as well. We're going to move on. Let me just see if there's any other comments. I didn't see anything big. OPD Don says, so that contract that they signed is like an NFL player contract. This might as well be printed on toilet paper. They can get cut in any time. I don't know. The legal ramifications are so crazy. It's hard to know.
It depends on what your definition of is.
Right. Let's go back to Clinton. Thank you.
It's all
Thank you,
interpretation of a contract.
It's very true.
So,
let's see. Mike Smith says, from my understanding, the other Pac teams did not want or allow USC, UCLA to vote. That is interesting. They did not let them vote over this last year because they had said they were already leaving, but technically they hadn't left the conference yet either. Right. So how can they have it one way and not the other? That's a great point, Mike. I hadn't even thought of that.
USC and UCLA didn't challenge it though.
But what the point is it even challengeable? That's I think the question. Yeah. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's see. David Griffin has a question for Immaculate. Do you still have the chances for the service academies and some Ivy League schools to backfill the ACC if they lose the 7, SEC, Big, and Big 12?
Yep. I did answer him in there, so don't replay that, but I'll go ahead and say real quick. I do. Mine is still very much a full-on private university conference. It's just a theory. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Jim Williams is right. I mean, he probably knows more than I do. Maybe Moen's right. But for me, I'm just kind of sticking to my guns on that. I really like the idea of a full-on elite private. I think that conference could actually get Notre Dame to come in full. That's why I kind of lean with that. And it does offer a much more likely opportunity to the IV8 should their whole situation with their scholarship problem really blow up in their face and have to make a hard decision. This conference that's being presented, I don't think that they're interested in that. They're particular folks. And you got to remember, if they can get the conference they like, that IPLC, the Ivy Plus Libraries Confederation, which is the opposite of the BTAA and in some regards better, could become a conference thing. So if that was to happen, I mean, that's everything the Big Ten is and maybe a little bit more. So if they were to be able to come into that, I definitely would look at that as a possibility.
His comment from C. John, he says, unequal revenue sounds like trouble. Yeah, we've been saying that for a long time. I don't think anybody says unequal revenue is the way to get ahead.
ACC is already in that bowl, though.
Yeah,
so.
they've already written that check, though.
Partake in this last question there, Nate.
I'm sorry?
The one you had highlighted before that from C. John.
Oh, right here, this one?
No, C. John. The one
C. John's up here.
There we go.
Yeah.
Only 3 are leaving. I've heard a theory, and we talk about going back to Clinton. This would go back to Grant and Sherman, that the Big Ten would be interested in taking 4 out of the ACC in one swoop.
Oh, wow.
That includes UNC, Clemson, Florida State, and either Virginia or Georgia Tech.
Oh, I can see Georgia Tech, yeah.
And then just
me too.
All 4 in one swoop and helping to pay for it. All the schools.
That is tough considering what they did with Oregon and Washington.
Oof. Right.
Well, Fox would have to be the big sugar daddy there, or maybe
I know, but
Amazon.
That's rolling the dice deep on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would respect that, but at the same time, I'd be like, "Come on,
Iowa.
Come on."
The other thing is this 20-year ACC media contract. Those are gone. I think. I don't think that's going to happen again. 5-year, 7-year, 6-year deals. Yeah. I think from here on out. Let's see if there's anything else before we get to our picks. All right. So if you're new to the channel, you want to make sure I read your comment, make it a super chat, or join as a member. just go to the main page. I got to import that video. Moen made a fantastic video for me, and I forgot to upload it. I'll do it, Moen. I promise. I'll get it uploaded. He did a really good job for me. But just go to the Big 12 Mafia page. There's the join button. Click it and go from there. All right, let's move to the fun stuff, which is our horrible picks. This weekend was probably the worst weekend of picks I think I've ever done in my entire life, and I'm like 5 years old, so that's a long time. So let's just take a look here and see how bad we did.
Yeah, it was rough.
So Wild Ute's cheating, I think. That's what I take from this.
I think he's just being contrarian, and it worked for him this time.
Probably. So I was 2-6. Immaculate's 2-6. Came back to the pack a little bit. Moen stays bad, and Wild Ute is 5-3. So
hey, I have 20/20 vision. What can you ask?
You have 20/20 vision. I'm 18-22, and Moen, holy cow, 16-24. We can keep adding games.
It's these backdoor covers that keep killing me.
Dude, we got killed on the covers, man. That's so brutal.
That's very true. So let's quickly run through the games, and I don't think I have a slide for that, but I can bring up the tweet.
Also,
there's 1 second.
A lot of folks asking about Gonzaga talk. Did you want to touch on that at all?
If you want to, go ahead. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
All right, folks, feel free to ask some questions on that real quick. We did go into this a little bit, I think, especially with our Spaces talk, so we can touch on it again. Me personally, I think that it's more like a code word. It's more like a signal. It's the Pacific Northwest. Any diligence that they do on it, like looking at cost and for sending teams and anything up there, it all works for Washington State and Oregon State too. We saw with Brett McMurphy, he put out a tweet, and then soon after he put out the same tweet with one added line at the bottom that said, "No, they're not considering Oregon State and Washington State right now. Sir, you doth protest too loudly. Someone told you to make sure and get out there and say that, and that's pretty obvious." So I think at this point it's safe to say that they were probably brought up in the meetings, but of course they can't talk about adding them because they're in a lawsuit with their conference right now. So when I see the Gonzaga talk, I think it's just Yormark warming the crew up. They just got done adding 4 schools. By all reports, it was very stressful. They didn't think it was going to go through. So they're probably, relieved when it was over. Well, here he is. He's getting them warmed back up. The realignment talk is back. And he did that with Gonzaga before, and I think he's doing it again.
And then there's the second play, the sort of next level, 3D chess type stuff where you say the Gonzaga pull is leverage or is part of a package with Fox to get additional basketball coverage and increase their media buy into basketball. And in doing so, they help subsidize some of the money to bring in Washington State and Oregon State to the Big 12. But, what Immaculate says is absolutely a fact, though. This happened before once, and we've seen the movie once. So why would we think it would be different the second time through? So if you hear Gonzaga talk, in the back of your mind, you start thinking, okay, well, there's still 2 old Pac-12 schools out there hanging. But let's just state this very clearly. 53 people around. Let's say it again. Probably say it every time until it's over. Nothing is going to change until the Pac-12 stuff is settled, okay? Pac-12 stuff has to be settled. Just has to. So everybody knows where the money is. Everybody knows what they own and don't own. And Bob Thompson said that could happen in the next month. So clock's ticking. Doesn't mean there's a guarantee that'll happen, but that's what he's intimated. So let's just keep that in the back of our mind. So Big Lubbock, that's where we're at with that. Kaufman says, I heard on 365 that it's coming from Gonzaga. I heard today it was coming from ESPN. I heard it was coming from 5 or 6 different sources, from Washington State, Oregon State. Let's see. I heard it was coming from a media member, a member of the conference. I heard it was coming from the conference. So,
I mean, if we want to go back and not very long in history, 365 was saying that they had a source in the Big 12 who was absolutely saying that OSU and WSU were not being considered by the Big 12, and thus 365 comes out and says that there's nothing to it and they'll never be in the conference. Then days later, they talk with the AD of Baylor, And he says, oh, well, now, no, we're not considering them, but who knows 6 months from now, 12 months from now. And then he said that he wouldn't be willing to say that they wouldn't ever be in the conference. So, sometimes a source is just, it's someone telling you something, but it's not always right. So, but them saying that it's Gonzaga, it kind of just seems like a nice deflection.
Anything else you want to add to that, Moen?
Yeah, this is a leverage play. They did this right before they added Colorado.
Yep, they did.
You remember all this smoke came out about we're going to add Gonzaga and UConn and Creighton and all these basketball powers. And suddenly, within 3 days, Colorado had joined, and shortly after, Four Corners. This is something I think Yormark just trots out to put pressure on somebody to give him what he wants. So I think that's the case here. I don't know who he's putting pressure on. Could be the Big Ten, could be the Pac-2, who knows? But I just think it's a pressure play.
He might be signaling that the thing that he wants in return is, the basketball play. He wants that maybe pushed forward. He wants to do that sooner rather than later, because that's one thing that we've talked about is in order to do this, the Big 12 is going to ask for something. And maybe that's what it is. That's him signaling what his request is that they start to push basketball.
We know this. He's gained a lot more political clout since he brought in the Four Corner schools. He fulfilled that goal. And since then, he's got a lot more run in the Big 12 offices with the chancellors and presidents. So, Cougar Tracks, who's one of our paying members, he says lawyers the only occupation that we didn't have any, we wouldn't need any. All right.
What about
throwing some shade on the lawyers? I love it. All right, so let's quickly go through the games. I don't have the list of games, so Immaculate, you want to list the games really quick, and we'll talk about why we're so bad in these records.
Yeah. Well,
what are the ones that threw us off? How about that? How did we do with the Oklahoma Texas?
I
won that one.
We all missed Colorado because they missed the
the
spread by 1 point. That was amazing. We all missed Notre Dame.
Yes, I'm never picking them again.
Only Wild Dude got Georgia right.
Yeah,
that just sounds horrible to say that we all got that wrong. Oh.
And I missed Maryland because of Moen. I blame Moen for Maryland and Notre Dame.
Yeah, you guys got that. Yeah, both Phil and I got that right. The A&M pick threw off most of us.
Yeah, that was whack too.
Moen actually got that one right.
Jeff, I've learned my lesson. It won't happen again.
And then the UCLA one was split. It was a lot of split numbers, but the ones that folks, it still ended up being, we mostly all did horrible.
I think the one that stands out that is the worst, and Jeff brings it up here, is the Kansas game with UCF. I took the points. I was thinking for sure this Bean backup guy couldn't be anything like Jalen Daniels, and holy cow, 52 points or whatever. I mean, that was embarrassing what they did to UCF. So, yeah, I learned my lesson, Jeff. I already picked on another show earlier today. I picked KU to win this weekend. So,
I mean, I remember saying in that show, it was like, don't sleep on Bean. He's probably the best backup in all college football.
Somebody said that. Was that you?
I did. And it's true. We saw him plenty last year. So it's not like he's a backup coming in with no experience. I mean, that guy, he could lead his own team. It's just the other guy's that much better. But this guy is a very – I'd take him at Iowa like now. If you're going to send me Bean, I'd be like, give him to me, please.
I think you'd take anybody pretty much
right
now.
Not just anybody, but I would have taken him over Cade.
Oh, yeah, well.
He's way better. He's better than Cade.
I don't think Cade's that good. So
no, he's not
saying much.
I mean, not just the injury included, but even before the injury, he wasn't better. This Bean guy, he's actually pretty good. He probably deserved his own team.
All right,
Moen, tell me what the hell happened this weekend.
All right, let's talk about backdoor covers. For starters, Maryland, deep in the fourth quarter, from their own 30, decided to go for it on 4th and 3. Your defense was playing decent. Why not just punt it there? Get a 3 and out. No, instead they give the Buckeyes the ball. The Buckeyes cover with the backdoor cover at exactly 20. These Las Vegas bookmakers they must have some kind of magic voodoo power to pick the exact point spread to mess us up. So
I thought it was a half point. Wasn't it 20.5?
It was 20 even.
I swear it was 20 and a half.
And it moved to 20 even.
But when we did our show, was it 20 and a half?
It was 20. It was 20.
Oh, all right.
I'm sure of it. Trust me. But I think I won the game, and I picked UCLA to beat Washington State. I think those are the two that I won. I also picked Kentucky to upset Georgia. That clearly didn't happen.
Right.
I know. That was rough. I had to stop watching that. I was like getting beat.
Georgia was making a point.
Whew, they came back. They just showed something.
Yeah. You mentioned Washington State and UCLA. That was a big disappointing game for me. Washington State did not play well at all. I think UCLA's good, and Ute picked them. You know, he knew. He told everybody they're good. They're running. They're running. Their defense. They're really good on the ground and all these things. But
UCLA is a defensive team now.
Yeah.
Like that's just. When did that happen?
I don't know. Chip Kelly's there. I'm not sure I've ever seen that.
That's
before,
exactly the point.
I don't understand.
Chip Kelly team, and they're a defensive team. Like,
but if they were that good, they would have beat Utah. Because Utah has no quarterback.
Yeah, but teams are different as they go through the year, and you know maybe they have a freshman quarterback. I mean,
can we talk about one game we didn't pick?
What?
The Miami Georgia Tech game.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Thank God! Oh my goodness,
I saw that too.
That was
what? Something. Why do you want to say why didn't we pick that one now?
I just want to bring that up. I see Jeff brought it up in chat.
Oh, okay.
Mario Cristobal is the dumbest.
He's a joke, dude. He did it at Oregon too.
In Oregon, you're right.
He did it at Oregon too. The guy's a joke.
Take the knee. What are you trying to prove by running the ball? You think you're going to break one and get an extra touchdown?
No, I think he just doesn't want to take any losses in the yards. I think he's literally just thinking about the yardage. You guy's an idiot.
He's just like talking to his player, like, "Go get yourself some more yards." Like he doesn't think about the unintended consequences in the situation.
Look, Dion is looking good in Miami right now. That's all I'm saying.
Everyone in Dion leaving. That guy can't barely even walk.
He's gonna get a call up. Eugene says Jim Williams just posted that OSU and WSU are going to use the negotiations to get into the. Oh my gosh, how long we've been saying this, Jim? Welcome to the party.
Yeah, why are you doing that now?
I don't know why are you doing this now, Jim. You're killing me, Smalls, because look. Jim was my first interview. I call him. I check in on him. I love him to death. But come on, man. We've been saying this for 2 months. This is not new. Longer than 2 months now. 2.5 months we've been saying this. If you've been watching our shows, you know we've been saying. Oh, Lord. I just don't think he pays attention. He watches our shows. That's what's funny. All right. Thank you, Eugene. I'll have to send him a note. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Jim will be on our show tomorrow, and we will absolutely talk about his lack of time understanding or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you know, he's up here. We're living down
He is.
here.
That's true. He is. That's true.
He's up there. He's on his own schedule.
Thank you for the heads up, Eugene. I didn't see that, so I'll have to find that on Twitter. All right, we're almost an hour in. You guys, is there anything you want to bring up? You couldn't make it tonight. He's moving. I think everybody knows that, but they've already moved. Now they're unpacking and doing that fun stuff. So we might not see him very often for the next couple of weeks, but he sends everybody his love and wanted to gloat that he did really well in his picks, and we did not.
Yeah, not too sad that he's not here.
You lost your lead.
Yeah,
you had a lead and lost it in 1 week.
He did. One big, huge pass. He just blew by me.
All right. Any last notes? We'll just call it an hour tonight.
Any questions or anything that from chat?
Is there anything out there? I think I've gotten to all the good comments and stuff. I don't know. Big Lubbock had one here. I don't think we talked about. What if Brett Yormark wants Oregon State, but doesn't want OSU, WSU? If he gets Gonzaga, he can pair that with Oregon State. I don't think Oregon State and Washington State split up.
Yeah, they're
hooked.
It's like you need both in order to get done what actually needs to be done. If you only
Which is
take
the
one,
destruction of the conference. They need
if
that
you only take one,
conference.
you're getting the negative without the positive.
That's right. That's right.
Doesn't
Yeah.
really work.
Okay. So here again, Jim is stealing. Are you watching live right now, Jim? Jim, send me a text, okay? Jim, if you're watching me live right now, send me a text because
Jim, we got to talk.
You're literally lifting my show cues in real time. You're doing.
He did it to my show yesterday too. I think he's just drafting off all.
Yeah, he was drafting off of us, right?
Sources say.
I cannot. Big Lubbock, thank you for that heads up. I don't even know what to say at this point. I called him yesterday to check on him. I'm not going to call him again today, but he's coming here tomorrow, so we'll talk about it. There's no harm, no foul. I don't care.
Cougars asking about the
yeah,
BYU
I saw that.
Here.
He's asking about BYU TCU, which is a pick for this weekend. We'll be talking about this Friday. Big game. It's a return game for BYU and TCU. We had a bunch of barn burners in the early 2000s. He says, Bomber, has BYU got the run game fixed? Aiden Robbins is supposed to be back. That's the word I'm hearing. But LJ Martin is a stud. I don't know if you had a chance to see him in person, but he puts his foot in the ground and goes north-south like we haven't seen for a while. Probably not since, I don't know. He does it a lot. If you're old enough, you remember Luke Staley. He runs a little like he does, like no fear. He doesn't run over people like we've had the last couple of years and stuff like that, but LJ Martin is a stud. So I don't know. Yeah, I think they have fixed it, and they could score a lot of points if they can get north-south with their run game. Let's see here. West Virginia, Houston, we will not be picking this game for this weekend. West Virginia by, I don't know, 400. Is that possible? Is that in the
I'm just sorry. I'm reading a Jim tweet. You want to hear this?
Sure, read it. Go ahead.
All right, here we go.
What's it say?
All right, Jim Williams. Why would the Four Corner Schools or Cal Stanford help WSY or OSU get into the Big 12 or ACC ? As long as the Pac-12 trial drags on, it slows down the CFP TV talks, and that hurts the remaining four conferences.
I don't even know what to say.
CFP. I know.
We've literally been saying this. You guys all know, you're watching this show, you know we've been talking about this for over 2 months. So I don't know. Jim is a slow guy. Like he has to have facts though, right?
He's on fire right now. He is.
So he's getting stuff. I think everybody's watching us right now. That's what I think's happening.
Yep.
I think everybody's watching Moen right now, and they're saying royalties. I want my payments for all of
I think everyone's looking at Moen and going, didn't I see that guy at the Raiders game?
That's funny. I like this. This is a good point. Jim needs to fix his clock in the background and never changes time.
Yeah.
Jim's got a funny set. I don't quite understand it myself, but and Opie says he's got a lot of tweets now. Jim's woken up today. I don't know what's going on, but so he's hearing stuff. All I know is they're all drafting off of us. So that's all there is to it.
Yep.
Anything else? I think we've covered all the comments that are really there.
Thoughts and prayers to Mary Lou Retton. If anybody remembers Mary Lou.
She died?
No. She's in the ICU with a rare form of pneumonia, I think. So
no.
Her daughter posted to thoughts and prayers to her. So she was
Mary Lou Retton. She's my age.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So
that sucks.
I don't want to end on a downer. I just want
No, definitely. Yeah. I love Mary Lou Retton. I'll send out a tweet on that.
Okay.
Anything else, Immaculate? Anything else you want to say?
No, I was just looking at his tweets. Like there was the one about that the other folks already said. So that's all he's got right now.
Okay, well, whatever.
Any more questions? I mean, does Opie want to come on?
You just want to talk to somebody, don't you?
Well, I was trying to help you out. You were trying to get $100 deal out of the guy. I was like, hey.
I was
bring Opie on and talk to him.
If he wants to come on, he doesn't have to pay me for it. I don't care.
No, I know that.
If somebody wants to come on, just say it.
I want to hear how Cajun you are, Opie. You need to come on here so we can hear the accent.
I used to live in Lafayette, so I wouldn't mind hearing that little accent again if you got it.
All I know is when I saw $100 flash on Greg's show and it stood up there for like a half hour, I was like, Opie better be giving me money. That's all I was saying.
I saw that was there. It's like
Great
damn,
on-
Bomber.
You're right, Jeff. She was great on Scrooge. I completely forgot about that.
She was
One of
on
my favorite-
Scrooge?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot. Oh, at the end.
Tiny
At
Tim.
the end. That's right. At the end
Yeah,
of the play. That's right. I
One of my
forgot
favorite
about that.
Christmas movies.
Scrooge is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. I don't think there's any. Mr. Monkey says OU over UT surprised me. Did not surprise me. I picked that in May. Texas overrated.
Well, I don't think Texas is overrated. I think that OU defense was underrated.
No, I think Texas is a little overrated. I think Alabama is overrated.
I think Alabama's getting better, but that's not the Alabama that Texas played.
No, it isn't. No. Well, if they
But-
sort out their quarterback, they'll be fine. But they didn't have a quarterback 3 weeks ago. So anyway. All right. Well, nobody wants to talk to us, so we're just going to go. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight on this show. Please subscribe. I hope you enjoyed it. If you wanted to hear more about the ACC stuff, just rewind and watch the video from the beginning. We talked about it. Summit Hawk is in the house, and he says horns down. By the way, to anybody who is a founder paid member, I got all your towels out if I got your address. If I haven't gotten your address, I can't send it to you. So I think there might be a person or two, like Sooner Scooter or something like that. I need to look his name up. I don't have his Twitter. Sooner Boomer, I think is what it is. If you're watching the show, I need your address. Email it to me. Anyway, so you get your flag if you want it. If you want to get a flag, sign up for a founder membership and send me your address, and I'll get it out to you, just like that. I make no money on them. They're about $5 to send, and then they were about $3 to make. So it's like $10. So, all right. Well, we're going to go. Everybody have a great night. We'll be here tomorrow. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern. Jim Williams will be in the house, and he will be answering defilade questions. He will be under the gun all night because I want to know what the hell he's doing. We're stealing all my lines. I'm just teasing, Jim. I love you. Everybody else have a great night. Drive safe, and we will talk to you soon. Peace out. It won't go.